Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we have something special in store, and that is a shootout of two acoustic guitars. So both of these guitars are dreadnought size, and in one corner we have the Martin D42. Now, as many of you will know, Martin has had a long and rich history in guitar as we know it today, dating back to pre-Civil War. And this particular model is the upper echelon of what Martin offers, in its catalog. This is a very expensive and pricey guitar for off-the-shelf guitars, and it's kind of out of the reach of most guitar players, just due to its price. With that, it is a top-tier off-the-shelf guitar. Now, the other guitar is a much more affordable Eastman E20D, and it is the TC edition, which TC stands for thermal cured, and it's part of what Eastman is kind of doing to kind of basically make the guitars play like a well-worn in guitar right out of the box. It's similar to the torrefication process that many other guitar companies have been using. And so this is kind of a add-on that you can get onto most Eastman's line just to make them feel a little bit more broken in. And this isn't anything new. A lot of guitar companies have been using this for a long time with that. But I do think that helps to slightly kind of level the playing field just slightly, just because this particular D42 is a few years older and it has been played and kind of broken in a little bit more, whereas this Eastman is almost brand spanking new. So keep that in mind, just as you're kind of listening to some of these examples. Speaking of the examples, we're going to do these at a fully blind test, so you're not going to necessarily know, from me putting text in the video or whatnot, what model is what from the two of these. But we'll kind of talk about some of the differences after the audio samples. In terms of specs, these are fairly similar in specs. I wanted to keep, a kind of a similar build between the two guitars, as I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube that highlight, a big price comparison, kind of breakdown between two guitars, but then they have very, very dissimilar kind of specs and wood and all of that in their makeup. So they are both handmade guitars. They both have spruce tops, albeit the Eastman has an Adirondack Spruce top, so Addy top, and then the Martin has it's your typical Sitka Spruce top. The back and sides, even though they look significantly different in color, as you'll kind of see in the B-roll footage a little later on in this video, they are both a Madagascar Rosewood, which is actually a kind of a little bit of a higher end opt over like an East Indian Rosewood. The Martin, I think you have to actually pay additional, upgrades there to get that access to that type of wood. So it is a beautiful sounding wood, beautiful looking wood too, and you'll see that in some of the B-roll, like I said. But we're gonna dive in here, and I've made special attention to make sure that the microphones are the equal distance from the source in both kind of these samples, and to make sure to play very consistently through each of the audio examples, just to make sure that the playing field is very level. That's also why we're doing the blind test too, just because, as many of you will probably understand, when we're typically dealing with a higher end guitar, the instant kind of thought process is to think that it's going to sound better than the other. But I wanted to kind of level the playing field a little bit, just so the Eastman has a fair shake on things when compared to the Martin. So we're going to go through and take a listen to these samples, and we're going to break down some of my thoughts after the samples. So stay tuned for the video, and we'll talk in a sec. I hope you guys enjoyed those audio examples of just comparisons between these two guitars. I certainly enjoyed kind of putting them up against each other. It's always kind of fun, kind of exploring kind of the differences between a set of guitars. Now, I do have some thoughts that I'd like to just kind of bring to attention, between these two guitars. But I want to preface all of this with just saying that both of these guitars are beautiful instruments, and you'd be happy either way, no matter kind of your level or experience point on the guitar. They're both really well-made guitars. That being said, there's a huge price difference between the two, and so we want to kind of factor that into some of these comments as well that I have. So right off the bat, we'll start with Martin, kind of the positives here with that, and then kind of talk a little bit about kind of some of the differences between that and the Eastman. So the Martin, right from the very first chord that I strummed, it just had a really unreal kind of presence. The resonance just up through the chest as I'm kind of playing on it, and just the resonance in the room, the projection was just quite powerful and potent. Really, really almost luxurious, which factors into that price. Very lush, rich low-end overtones in the frequencies, low-end frequencies. That huskiness that Martin has kind of always been known for, just really, really present throughout that. It's just a true joy to play. Just that lushness, the richness that you kind of get out of the guitar. And when you dig into it, it can really go. That whole cannon-like sound that we're looking for in a dreadnought that makes it so great for strumming is definitely something that Martin hits right on the head with this one. So really, really fun guitar to play. Now, the Eastman also delivers that kind of cannon-like sound. You can get a ton of kind of volume out of it too, and presence, without reaching kind of its headroom. But the one thing that I would say between the two is there's definitely some more, I would say, a little bit more rigid kind of compression that's happening naturally in the guitar, in the Eastman, rather than the Martin. There's definitely more of an openness in the Martin, and that could honestly even just be the age difference between the guitars. If you remember from the start of the video, this Eastman is like brand new, right out of the Eastman factory, versus this Martin is a secondhand Martin that one of my students owns, and I think the year on that was a 2013. So it's been played, it's been broken in, and it's had some time to kind of just, open up quite significantly. Where the Eastman, even though it's thermal cured with that, and does have more of a broken in kind of sound just because of that, I just don't think there's really any substitute for just playing a guitar, loving a guitar, and, putting it through its paces. It just opens up so much more. My very own Eastman, I have the Eastman E20D-MR. I've had it for, I think, 3 or 4 years now, and I've even done a review on the channel that you can check out there as well. But it sounds completely different than when I got it brand new. It's had time to mature and break in and open up, and it's just a beautiful instrument, as a result. And that's not even the thermal cured edition. It's just the regular E20D-MR. So beautiful guitar all around. On the positives for Eastman as well, that natural compression, and I would say lack of some of those lower frequency overtones that the Martin does have, almost lends itself to some positives actually in certain, circumstances. The fact that it lacks some of those low end frequencies makes it instantly a little bit more balanced. When I'm thinking of in the applications I'd use it for recording, a lot of the frequencies that, though they're beautiful and really fun to kind of experience and play through on the Martin, are typically frequencies I'd typically be kind of shaving and carving away, especially when sitting in a busy mix. And I'm speaking of EQ, kind of carving away with EQ, because those frequencies are really full and beautiful and vibrant in the room, and they just sound really powerful. And you feel really awesome, honestly, when you're kind of playing that Martin, because it just sounds so powerful. Despite that takes up a lot of room in a busy mix, when you're recording. And so despite those kind of benefits playing wise, the Eastman actually kind of already sounds almost pre-EQ'd to my ear with that. And so it doesn't quite have the same kind of experience that the Martin does playing it, but it does sound almost record ready in a sense with that. The other thing too that I do want to note about just Eastman guitars just in general, the Martin, while it was pretty playable and comfortable, the one thing I'll say is, and I've noticed this across a whole bunch of different onshore companies, which is kind of depressing to be honest, is really kind of almost shoddy fretwork. Just meaning you can feel every fret really noticeably going up and down the guitar, where it's kind of jagged, not quite sharp enough to kind of draw blood, but it's not comfortable. It's not very smooth. And that's something, that you can definitely file and buff out those frets down. And obviously the humidity in the area is going to change as the wood kind of shrinks and expands. It's going to kind of vary through the lifespan of the guitar. However, something that I've seen through Eastman's entire line, I've seen probably 25 or 30 Eastman guitars of all different price points and shapes through my studio, as a ton of my students at my recommendation have bought Eastman. The fretwork and attention to detail in QC is pretty spectacular. They're doing some really awesome things at Eastman, where I just can't quite say that about all the onshores guitar companies that have been coming through the studio as well. Again, at significantly higher price points. I'm feeling really jagged frets, buzzing from poorly cut saddles and nuts in the guitar that just causes the guitar just not to play as well as it could. A lot of these, high-end American-made guitars, recently I've had to have even students take into a luthier locally and had some of these issues kind of worked out, where Eastman is just like across the board. I mean, the frets are buttery smooth, they intonate really well, and out of the box, like when you get them, they just have really well filed nuts and saddles, and it just helps the guitar not buzz, when you're kind of playing. And so it's quite remarkable at the price point what Eastman is doing. I'm a huge fan of the Eastman line just as a whole. And so you can kind of see there's a whole lot of things that make Eastman just an interesting guitar to be considering when you're kind of looking at your next upgrade or your first kind of serious guitar. You could go out and spend probably twice the cost of your average Eastman on a US-made guitar, and I honestly, just from personal experience, I don't think the American equivalents, which typically are about 2 to 3 times the price, they just don't hold up as well, just due to the quality control. Because if you're spending, $5,000 or $6,000 on a USA-made higher-end guitar, there shouldn't be any issues. It should play buttery smooth. The intonation should be perfect. You should get what you pay for with that. And just really recently, the last few years, I've had so many high-end guitars that have come through my studio that they just don't kind of deliver that in the same way that Eastman has been doing that. And so it's just a cool thing to see, Eastman kind of putting, that kind of level of quality product out. And it's just a reminder to, well-known, USA-made guitars to keep the game, their game up too, because there's a lot of, lower priced competitors that are coming up through the ranks. Competition is a good thing because it pushes, the market for product higher and higher. But it does, force, these well-known and beloved, companies to kind of try to keep their bar high. And so I am always recommending Eastman to people, and that's not to, kind of shoot down Martin in any way whatsoever. They've had such a beloved, history. And, I've owned many Martins over the years myself, like many of you have. And so the D42, I mean, this guitar is beautiful. It's a wonderful instrument. I just think for the price point, it's definitely not for everyone. It's well out of most people's price range. And there's a huge difference in price range between the Martin and the Eastman. And I just think there's a lot of, benefit to a more value-based guitar that delivers a lot of the same specs in terms of wood and materials, and that same kind of attention to detail, albeit I might even say greater attention to detail in some cases, a lot of the way across the board with that. So I hope you found this video helpful or at least enjoyable. I love doing a lot of these shootouts and comparisons on different products It's something that I really am passionate about. So if you liked this video and you like and enjoy guitar and music technology kind of related content, please do hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications so you can kind of stay tuned for more content. I haven't been posting super frequently recently. In fact, it's been a few years actually now. Lots been going on. My business has kind of exploded. It's very busy, but I do have a lot of plans for more content for the channel now that my space I'm in now is kind of a little bit more established. I kind of feel that I'm at a point where I can start putting out more content. So if you do like kind of being along for the ride too, you can check me out on IG. I do post a lot kind of more just the regular everyday kind of life stuff of a full-time guitar instructor and audio engineer. So if you're into that, definitely follow me and feel free to reach out too. I love engaging with the whole music community. So hope you found the video entertaining, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.